Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Two Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we're giving you guys a review of Torn Arteries by Carcass. So we've listened to this album a ton throughout the entire week, and I'm going to open the floor and say that this was a really enjoyable album. And you know what, if I were to really sum this album up in one word, that word would be fun.
Oh,
because
yeah.
Honestly, you could tell through how this music sounds that the band had a lot of fun making this record.
I can see that, yeah.
There's a lot going on. There's a lot of different ideas throughout every single song, and it sounds like this band really just enjoyed everything that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
As for songs that stand out, there are three main songs that really stood out to me the most among others.
Curious.
So the first of which being Flesh-Ripping Sonic Torment Limited.
Okay.
Now this song follows a traditional long song format. You got your back and forth verse and chorus. You got like a quiet mid-section, and then they bring it back through some kind of bridge, and then they head out. Every single section in this song is awesome. I really enjoy it. It's one of those songs where it sounds good, and I'd be listening to it in the background while I'm busy doing something, and I'll turn my head and be like, "Ooh, yeah, that's sick. What song is that?" A lot of the time would be this song for a lot of different sections, which makes sense. It's about like a 9-minute. Long song.
Almost 10.
Yeah, it's a
9:42.
Yeah, so it's a pretty long song, so I guess it makes sense that song's going to be on the longest out of the rest of them, because it's the longest song.
Mm-hmm.
But I really like that, you got this sick chorus, then right after, an awesome slower groove with trading solos on it. Mm-hmm. I noticed that throughout this album, there's a lot of pacing changes. You got a fast song here, and then right after, kind of a slower groove there. Like, it's really up and down in terms of the speed and the energy there. But I still think it's awesome. I think it does a good job at kind of really throwing something different at you constantly. Another song that really was just blowing me away was In God We Trust. This song starts out with a really major sounding riff, which you could say is off-putting, but I don't think so.
I think major, you mean like major scale?
Yes.
Okay.
You could say it's off-putting because nothing on the rest of the album sounds like it, but honestly, it's fine to me, and I enjoy it because I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's this interesting thing. The first solo, beautiful and so tasteful. Love that solo. And the second solo is also pretty cool. Had these hand claps in the background, which are a really cool thing as well. This song just kept standing out to me among others. Every time it came on, yeah, this one's sick. And then the third song that really kind of stood out was Wake Up and Smell the Carcass. This song has a sick bounce to it when it starts through that hook. It just grabs you and you get going with it. The bridge has this awesome drum groove with a ride that really kind of reminds me of Criminally Insane. And I know I mentioned that when we first heard it, way back in our first impressions in the listening session. And I still love that ride groove. And that's kind of, it's one of those albums where you're going to constantly make the note of like, okay, awesome riffs, okay, awesome riffs, okay, awesome riffs, and it's like that for every song. But those three were the main ones that really stood out to me the most. Not to say the rest of the album, it doesn't really touch it. The rest of the album is really strong. It's just those three were my top tracks.
Very interesting, because I also did enjoy this album throughout the week, and I also had three tracks that kind of spoke to me and were kind of my highlights throughout the week. And since you ended with Wake Up and Smell the Carcass, I'm going to start with that one because that was one of my three as well. I really like the things you mentioned already. The bounce the song has, just the energy and all that stuff. But they do this cool call and answer thing with the guitars and the vocals. Like the vocal does a line, then the guitar kind of responds, and they do that back and forth a few times. I like that part. It was kind of cool. Towards the end, there's this thing where the guitar does this really tasty like lick that finishes off the bars. Just, I don't know, really cool stuff. There's a lot of really good guitar work on this album. Just really kind of feel good stuff. Might not be that technical. Maybe it is. I'm not even sure. I don't play guitar, so it doesn't sound that technical, but it sounds really, really feel good. Like these guys just know how to write a riff that you just want to listen to. Just catchy. So that's a really good song. Another one that I really liked was Eleanor Mortis. So this is the song that has the bookend solos. So if you don't know what I mean, if a song starts the same way as it ends, we call that a bookend. So it starts with a solo, it ends with a solo. That's really cool. You don't see that very often. But there's this one section in the song, in the middle-ish somewhere, where it just adopts this dirty groove. Freaking love it. I just want to crank it to 11, and it just, you know, puts me in the Bobby Boy mood, and I love the fuck out of it. It's awesome.
One thing I really love about that song is that there's a solo, like a guitar solo, that plays underneath everything else. Like, you think normally you got the guitar solo as a focus and, you know, a rhythm section. This is like the main groove is still playing and the vocals are still there and the guitar solo is underneath it. And I thought that was really cool and rather uncommon.
Yeah, and that's just an example of what I said a few minutes ago about the guitar work on this album just kind of being really good. It's just a lot of creative ideas going on in there, and that's just an example of one of them. My third highlight track is Dance of Ixtab. I mean, I just could not get enough of that song. The riff, super catchy. I mean, that's basically all I'll say about it. It's just, the song is just made by the riff, and that to me is good enough for this song.
Yeah, I think that song is a really good example to like pretty much prove what you said earlier. That it's a really catchy album. They know how to make
Super
a good
catchy.
riff. That song is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, and I totally understand why they made that the first single as well, with the video. So I think they made a good choice there. It was definitely something that grabbed people, hooked people, made people excited about the album. And yeah, it's pretty good. As for the rest of the album, I felt like the rest of the album was really good. I did enjoy it, but it felt like it was a lot of just kind of just, it was there. I don't want to say I was having trouble finding stuff that I liked about each song, because I liked each song, but nothing else was really speaking to me, grabbing me like the other 3 tracks I mentioned. Like the stuff you mentioned about Flesh Ripping Sonic Torment Limited, I was like, yeah, that stuff's there, I get it, it's in the song, it's creative, it sounds good, but I didn't want to add it to my playlist, you know what I mean? Like,
I added it to mine.
Yeah, so, but that's what I'm saying, like, out of the 10 tracks, 3 of them went in my playlist. So
that's almost 1/3 of the entire album.
Yeah, but I'm in this spot now. You know what I mean? Where I liked it, I enjoyed the album through the whole week. And you know what? I'm gonna say that at the beginning of the week, I was really into this album. I was like, yes, Carcass nailed it out of the park. This is like, I was thinking in my head, this is Toe Tag album. I can't wait to talk about this album. As the week went on, that feeling died down a bit. I'm in a position right now, I know we're going to rate it in a minute, I'm in a position right now where I'm not quite sure where to go. Because the rest of those songs just didn't grow on me and didn't kind of impress me like the 3 I mentioned did. But I don't want to say they're bad, they're not. So, I don't know.
Well, I guess with that being said, let's get to rating this album. And I guess I'll go first, because clearly you need a little bit of time to still figure out how you feel.
I'm not sure, yeah.
So, I'll just say my bit. This album, I said my thing about those 3 songs and how they stood out to me, and I understand where you're coming from regarding the other tracks on the album. However, I do think this album, as a whole, shows that there's a lot of creativity with this band, a lot of outside-the-box, you know, ideas considering death metal. You gotta consider, this is death metal, and they're making a very original-sounding album. So I feel like it stands out among death metal albums, but it's still accessible to people who still like, I guess, you know, more classic sounding death metal and things that are more straightforward, but this album has a lot of spice to it. So I feel like it really is a standout album. While only 3 of those songs really jumped out at me as amazing, the rest of the album is still very strong, and I think it is still a very creative and standout album. It gets my toe tag for that reason.
That's interesting. That's very interesting, and I like these videos where we say things that, I don't know, okay, so I'll just say what I'm thinking. When you say, okay, death metal album, yes, agreed. When you say it stands out as a death metal album, that contradicts what I'm thinking, because the reason why the rest of the tracks didn't speak to me is because they felt like just typical death metal songs. Well, they felt very typical and very kind of run-of-the-mill. But that's not a bad thing, as I'm trying to emphasize. I still like that. There's nothing wrong with that. But for a Toe Tag album, I need more of the songs like Dance of Ixtab that have those riffs that make me go, fuck yes. Or the dirty groove in Eleanor Mortis that make me go, fuck yes. I need more of that on the album to be a Toe Tag album. So, I can't give it a toe tag. I can't give it a toe tag. I fucking hate it. You guys are probably watching thinking, Vile, what are you doing? Give it a toe tag, you fucking idiot. In my head, I have to justify it, and I just can't this time. It's going to get a 7.5. Fuck!
That's twice, 2 weeks in a row, where it's a toe tag here and a 7.5 there.
The Toe Tag album is just
funny.
they gotta be more special than this. This is a good album. It's a solid album. There's nothing wrong with the album, but it needs more special.
Well,
That's it.
once again, it's a 7.5 from Vile and a toe tag.
So close,
from
man.
us.
It's on the doorstep. It really is.
I mean, you never know, man. By the time December comes and we're trying to think of our top fives and stuff, you might look at this album or even last week's album and think, wow, what was I thinking?
And
right?
that's happened before. Sometimes a few months will go by and I'll listen to them again and go, fuck, man, that really was a Toe Tag album. I should have. But you know what? We listened to it for a week. I listened to this album as much as I could. Every day, multiple times a day. Like, we really put these through the ringer. And 3 out of 10 songs. Not enough for me.
Well, there you have it, guys. Remember to like the video if you liked it. Tell us in the comments below, would you give this album a toe tag, or would you give it a 7.5, which is just shy of a toe tag? We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. Remember to subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Vile Self.
And keep those horns up.